pido allí, por favor, al equipo de producción que cuando pueda nos dé paso a el invitado que tenemos. Vamos a hablar con alguien que está enfrente de las pantallas. Allí tenemos a esa persona que está enfrente de las pantallas, lo tenemos en vivo. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? How you doing? Yeah, I know you were moving. So, give me 1 second. I'm going to make an introduction en español. Hablamos con él porque Cherif, que está en la compañía que se llama Trader TV, ellos tienen la habilidad de mostrarle al público cómo se está moviendo el mercado en tiempo real. Obviamente les ha ido muy bien en ese proceso, pero le voy a preguntar qué es lo que está pensando ahora, precisamente porque él está en lo que se llama la candela. Cherif, how are you? How you doing? Nice to have you in our tribune. I'm very happy that you are basically coming. And the first question, which we're going to have around 5-7 minutes speaking with you, is
no problem.
this. What are you seeing on the market? Because obviously we see a major rally yesterday.
Yep.
Now people are telling me you should buy any pullback. The narrative changed because you don't want to be negative in front of anything that Trump might do, not only as the Trump pot, but I would like your opinion because NASDAQ is again towards 5% down today.
Yeah, that's the thing, Victor. I mean, we had such an aggressive move yesterday. It's natural that there's going to be some profit taking in this market. It's not just going to be, you know, everybody's long-term investment. There's a lot of money that comes in intraday for swing trading. That's a lot of what we do here at Trader TV. So there's a lot of profit taking, but there's a lot of wild cards as well, Victor. The 145% tariff now on China increased from 104 yesterday definitely didn't help the market, and it hurts some major players like Apple, like Tesla, a lot of these companies that really rely on imports or exports from other countries to kind of run their business. Apple, almost all the iPhones they make, Victor, for the exception of about 20% are made in China, about just a little bit are made in Vietnam, and a little bit more are made in India. They're really trying to focus the supply chain shift to move it away from China to take advantage of these jurisdictions that have lower tariffs. But I think, Victor, that we are just in the first inning, so to speak, to use a baseball metaphor. We're just getting started. Donald Trump kind of made this comment yesterday. He says the Chinese don't know how to react. They're a proud people. President Xi is a proud leader, and he doesn't want to look like he's giving in to Donald Trump, so he's trying to hold firm. How that plays in the markets is we see volatility like this every day. It's like, Victor, usually with presidents, this type of negotiation is taking place behind closed doors. Donald Trump is a different kind of president. We're going to see this taking place in the public. And so because of that, because of this exposure, because of this openness, we're going to have volatility like this all the time. Otherwise, these discussions would be taking place behind closed doors, and we would find about after everything is said and done, all the numbers are ready to go, all the deals are struck. Then the public finds out Donald Trump is not operating like that, and we should have known that. We saw this in Trump 1.0. We saw the volatility every day. We saw the aggressive negotiation. We saw the rhetoric, the vitriol, and how he deals with the Chinese. So very interesting day. I want to tell you, just from a technical sense, looking at the price action, we didn't give back the majority of the day. In fact, we dropped about almost 7%. We were yelling and screaming on the show that the market was actually going to be halted. We were very close, Victor, to getting halted. We didn't get halted. The the S&P 500 has to drop below 7% for us to get halted. The NASDAQ, one of the markets, the main markets, actually dropped below 7%, but it was the S&P 500 that has to go below that level. So we didn't actually get out. Now, after that, we retraced to the high side. We moved back up. He had a press conference. He was meeting with his cabinet today in the White House. The press was covering it. All the news channels were covering it. And he didn't say anything that really hurt the market. We were covering that on the show as well. And, you know, he made comments, obviously, about the Chinese. So I got to tell you the truth. It's still too early, Victor, to say this is the bottom or here we're recovering. I need to see more. I need to see a couple of more days. I'd like to see how the market closes on Friday, too. A lot of the money that's going to come in or out of the market on Friday has to deal with a 2-day pause. So sometimes you see a bit of resolution, a bit of direction on Friday.
Listen, I love that because you were very you did a great explanation about what happened today. But I have some information here that is arriving within the last few hours about, I don't want to say a credit crunch, but it's some sort of a illiquidity in the private markets. Yes. And obviously that's what it accelerated probably, that President Trump took such an action yesterday, lowering the tariff for everybody for 90 days, going focusing to China. But my concern is that every major CEO, CFO is frozen because basically there is a lot of uncertainty with regards of how we're going to plan for the next couple of quarters. And obviously what I'm seeing, Cherif, is that the rumor goes and goes, and you keep saying, and I'm seeing the bond market, the 10-year, for example, going to 440. Obviously, it's coming back a little bit, 437, so people's been buying that, and the action was okay today. That's what I hear was solid. Yep. But I'm assuming that not only the Chinese and the Japanese are selling, and I would like your opinion on that quickly, I'm thinking that there is major problem in some hedge funds, as we did in 1998 with long-term capital, because of the move very quickly in those bonds, and basically how that curve is affecting their value at risk model, the Monte Carlo, and everything they need to take in terms of risk.
Absolutely. The 10-year is integral here. I made this point very clear on the show. So a couple of things. I want to touch on a couple of things you just said. The Chinese are selling. My inclination, though, Victor, is that Chinese are selling here as a negotiating tactic. They want to wreak havoc with the bond market. In fact, they want the yields to go up so they have a stronger negotiating hand with Donald Trump. Well, why do they want the yields to go up, Victor? What do they get from that? Well, Donald Trump has made it very clear. He wants to get spending under control. Part of that spending is to get the interest rate on the debt that the U.S. owns down. How do they do that? They need to lower the yield, the coupon, the percentage paid on the bond. How do you do that? While bond prices go up, yields go down. And inversely rated yields go up, bond prices go down. So when the Chinese start selling, what ends up happening to the yield? It goes up, means the U.S. has to pay more in interest on their debt. And we know what Joe Biden did during the 4 years. He issued a lot of new debt, Victor, to finance all the projects that he had, whether it was the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act. There was a lot of spending during the Biden administration, some good, some bad, just in my opinion here, right? So this is why I believe the Chinese are selling as a negotiating tactic. That doesn't mean, Victor, that others can't step in to buy. For example, we know the Saudis have been buying aggressively U.S. Treasuries as of late. Do they continue to buy? Especially now with the barrel going down, they might be in a bit of a budget deficit, so they may not have as much money to be spending as they previously had. So we're going to have to see, Victor, if somebody steps in here to fill the void and start buying the treasuries that the Chinese are selling.
Listen, love it. Let me ask you something, and you have 45 seconds to articulate this one. Short term. Short term. But in the second quarter of 2025, with the volatility at a very, very high level, comparatively speaking, and you still have this position where you know that the market are in turmoil, but you don't want to be completely short because you know that Donald Trump might announce deal with China, deal with the European Union. We have this deal with Mexico and Canada, and then the markets will go higher. Absolutely. Where are you looking to put the money to work? And I was telling the audience that I'm very concerned with the oil because on Saturday we have a potential conversation between Iran and the U.S. And if that goes wrong, they're going to buy energy because they know that actually we might have a problem, and a very big one with regards of the Stretch of Hormuz, which is this little part that the Iranian control. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll get to the Iranian part in a second, but with respect to looking at foreign investment, worried about the volatility because Donald Trump can strike a deal. One area that money really always ends up flowing to, and then there's a lot of volatility in the market, are these counter-cyclicals, your utilities, sometimes healthcare. We saw United Health today, Victor, UNH have a very good day. Some of these utility stocks are doing well as well. So if you're looking for something specific, there's a counter-cyclicals. You can also put your money in an area where the tariffs have much less of an effect, specifically companies that do most of their manufacturing as well as have most of their consumers in the United States. That is something you should be looking at as well. So you're trying to basically create a portfolio or a trade that isn't specifically dependent on tariffs or industries that are as affected by tariffs. Now, with respect to Iran, this is going to be a very thorny issue. Donald Trump is very aggressive this time, I think. So whether the Iranians are going to entertain him in the way that perhaps they entertained him before, we're going to have to wait and see. But there's a military aspect here that we're not taking into account, which is the Houthis in Yemen. They have been the proxy for Iran, and they are now under attack by the Americans. So the Iranians may be emboldened here to kind of step up and show we're not going to be pushed over. And if that's the case, I think we're going to have some volatility in the energy markets, Victor.
Where do I have to wire the money so you can manage my money? You're super clear. Listen, it's a pleasure having you in the show. I probably want to go to your show one day to tell the people what the people that speak Espanol that are in the market, think about the markets. And obviously you see Latin America, I don't want to tell you it's booming, but money is going into Latin America because we think Tron will be, we will have a great understanding with Mexico. Happy to have you, Cherif.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And definitely we will be watching you and your shows and everything, and we will make sure that at the end of the day, we keep collaborating and bringing you to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Victor, and you're welcome on our show anytime.